You know, there are very few things in this world that can spark a debate quicker than a discussion about heroes and villains, and Hazbin Hotel is no stranger to this, as there are many characters of various persuasions and wide-ranging goals. And even though this essay is entitled Hazbin's True Villain, it's more like a small dive into those that could or will pose a threat later down the line, whether that be in a small antagonistic role or as a full-fledged villain. And since we already have confirmation that the V's are going to be the primary villains of Season 2, and considering I've already made a video about them, they will not be mentioned here. But feel free to discuss them in the comments section below. So, let us begin with the golden bad boy and Dickmaster, Adam.
Don't fucking shush me, bitch.
I won't be touching on him too much since I already did a deep dive examining his character, but I will simply say as time goes on, and based on what I've seen online, the fanbase has begun to see the leader of the Exorcists in a more three-dimensional light. He's certainly the primary threat of the first season, and I find it rather difficult to classify him as a straight villain, even though he is nowhere near sainthood by any means. He comes across as a figure who is acting villainous, yes, but there are other dimensions that can be applied to him as well. Like I said in the essay I did on him, that if you had heard that he was leading an army of angels to exterminate demons every year, I don't think many would necessarily object. It sounds pretty adventurous, and typically if someone told you that killing demons was a bad thing, outside of the given context, I believe that most people would respond in the following way. I also put out a short dissecting some of the language used in the prologue, where Charlie narrates that Hell's power grew as it gained sinners, with a little added help from the Hell Queen's influence, and how it could possibly add to Rue's own power base. The eyes we see in the shot of Lil in Hell almost seems to cement this? And if that is indeed the case, and if the short conversation Sarah has with him is to mean anything, it appears that Adam is the one who came up with the exterminations, and you could say that his actions could be considered heroic from a certain point of view, but actions that have been twisted and corrupted over time, with their original intention now lost.
You have corrupted your purpose, and so yourself.
Just for the record, I am not calling Adam a hero by any means. I am simply positing the idea. Please don't at me in the comments. Thank you very much. Anyways, by the time we get to see him, Adam has developed a rather mega-douche personality, shall we say, and sees his little excursions into hell as a form of entertainment, as well as perhaps a vacation. So even if his actions had a good intention about them in the beginning, we all know what the road to hell is paved with, don't we? Plus, we see Adam as a villain primarily due to the aforementioned context of the series. It doesn't quite help that we get to know our little hotel fam more than him, and therefore feel bad for them when they get 360 no-scoped. Adam being an ass to Charlie doesn't quite help either, since she is, more or less, the epitome of sunshine and rainbows in this show. Or at least, that's the position she attempts to embody. However, and I cannot stress this enough, she is the daughter of the guy who made him a cuckold, not once, not twice, but twice in a row. So Adam, if we're gonna be fair, has no reason to be warm towards her or anyone close to her in the slightest. So even though the first man is counted as a villain technically, I find it difficult to lump him fully into that category, as he comes across as someone who's a victim of his circumstances. Plus, realistically, how many of us would come out the other end of things well adjusted after being caught in the middle of the politics of angels and demons? Credit should also be given where it's due, since he is more than willing to fight alongside his troops in battle. He could have, very easily, just stayed in heaven and watched everything go down from a safe distance. And it's a real shame that Viv has confirmed that he won't be coming back for Season 2 as a sinner. It could have been a great character building moment for our little band of misfits to have someone they hate beg for their help, after he tried to massacre them all. Next up, we have Loot. And I was going to give her her own video, but after mulling over it for some time, what I had was a bit too short to be released on its own, so I'll be talking about her here. And a big reason for that is because Loot is far more dangerous than Adam could ever be. The basis for me saying this is because of one simple reason. Adam sees the exterminations as entertainment, and therefore does not take things as seriously as he should. At least, not until Carmella did her thing. But Lute is the exact opposite. Unlike her commander, she sees the exterminations as a mission to protect heaven with the conviction of a religious zealot. Someone who sees it as a primary objective, and one she takes pleasure in, possibly more than anyone else.
Rip Badgie's cutting mouth out her ass! You just chill, Loot. Fuck.
And someone who's more than willing to take down her own in the most violent way possible in the name of said objective. Hence why she removed Vaggy's wings with her bare hands, whereas a quick slice of her sword would have done the job just as efficiently. You could say that in giving her former sister-in-arms such personal attention, could be her taking a form of pleasure in the act. She certainly has the enthusiasm to match. She's also made it quite clear that she's not going to let anything stop her from achieving her goals. She did pull a 127 hours on herself and kept going until her commander was down for the count. With her dedication to her craft, it's no shock that she became Adam's lieutenant, and with him now gone, and Lute as the new commander, I think she'll be posing more of a threat than he ever could. She could also pose a threat to Heaven at some stage as well, since I don't think she'll be taking too kindly to everyone's favorite blueberry-flavored Snake Boy palling around with Emily. And based on this shot from when Vaggy crushed her during the battle, this could be foreshadowing as a possible fall from grace for her. Next up, and his inclusion may cause a few eyebrows to be raised, we have Lucifer. And if you are confused as to why I placed him here, I will explain why I included everyone's favorite socially awkward short king. He may be Hell's best dad, and by far one of the funniest characters in the entire series, but let's not forget that he is still the devil. Please, for the love of all that is good and holy, do not pull a Charlie and forget where you're at, and the type of people you'll be dealing with when it's convenient for you.
Mister?
Go fuck yourself!
Hell and everyone down there only exists because of his actions in Eden, and the more I look back on the prologue of the series, I keep wanting to know the full context beyond the perspective that we've been shown so far. Something that is brought up about Lucifer numerous times in the show is that he was a dreamer that was shot down by the Elders of Heaven, and then proceeded to fall for Lil and take part in the fall of man. It's quite hard to gauge what these dreams of his were, because we're never told, but based on what we see in the flashback during More Than Anything, it appears that he was possibly shot down for reasons related to his pride. We do see pieces of it come out when he visits the hotel and even when fighting Adam, but I think a big clue as to him being prideful is when he shows Charlie that image of the duck with angelic wings at the center of everything. I don't know, it seems a little bit sus to me. We also don't know what he was like prior to his fall from heaven, but only how he is after thousands of years. We've also got Ozzy talking about knowing Mammon since Hell's foundation, something that Short Daddy was directly involved in, which raises the question of whether or not the war in heaven between Lou and Michael actually happened. Currently, one can only speculate, but it certainly activates the almonds, so to speak. I also find it quite amusing that the narration of the prologue talks about Lil abandoning Adam after he demanded control. But let's stop right there. Let's just stop for half a minute, shall we? Why does Adam want control, and why the sudden yearning for independence from Lil? These two were made as they were. No formative years, no childhood trauma, or even embarrassing teen moments for them to build their personalities on. They were made as the angels wished them to be. I'm curious as to whether or not Lucifer, being miffed at being sidelined, decided to become petty. Something that we see him doing whenever he and Alistair are in the same room, and decided to drive a wedge between the first couple. It's not something that's unheard of, as he did something similar in how he tempted Eve in John Milton's Paradise Lost, and based on how he almost immediately shacked up with the first woman, it certainly makes me wonder. I mean, don't get me wrong, he does have charm, but that's a little too convenient. However, I also can't quite blame him either. He certainly aimed high for the gold and took it, didn't he? Plus, let's not forget that these two were quite literally made for each other. So, again, a bit sus. So, he may not be a villain in the traditional sense, but he is responsible for allowing Rue to be born and opening the door for sin to infect Earth. We also see him in his snake form before handing the apple to Eve, so it's likely he was being deceitful on some level, as that's typically what's associated with that form. He may be a silly duck guy now, but there might be some skeletons in his closet that have yet to be discovered based on what we're shown in the prologue. especially since the events are described almost like a children's fairy tale, so not the most accurate take on things. I'm also not suggesting that Lucifer will end up becoming a villain, but I am saying that many of those that could be considered antagonistic and villainous in the series exist the way they do because of his actions and his pride. There is a reason why it's considered to be the deadliest of the 7 sins, and since it took down the one who was previously beloved as the Morning Star to someone who's hated and feared, you could say that pride did indeed go before the fall. Plus, he may have been sidelined in the beginning, but I think that if he had simply waited things out, he could have gotten his spot in this new world, and when everything was shattered, he may have realized his mistake. A mistake he may not have had any respite from if it wasn't for the presence of those like his wife and his daughter. At least, for a time, anyway. And finally, let us now have a chat about one of the most mysterious characters in the series, at least so far, anyhow, the Hell Queen herself. There is so much that can be said about her, and yet at the same time, so little, and the theories about her go from plausible to totally insane. The show's prologue, though it should be taken with a grain of salt, given how Charlie is probably not getting her info from an unbiased source, let's say, can provide us with some ideas as to what the Hell Queen is about. I find it interesting that when we see Lucifer giving Eve the apple, she is right there at his side, almost like she's feeding him the right lines to say, and hinting at her being devious in her own right. Lou may be a master duck maker, but he's not a master wordsmith.
And now I am going to fuck you!
It's fuck you up, Dad.
Wait, what did I say?
We also see her being played up as a more alive and popular figure than her husband in the opening narration, as well as her being present in various catalogs of modeling and singing throughout Hell. We've also got this line here.
Don't worry, Mom. I'll make you proud.
What are the Hell Queen's dreams? And what exactly did she pass on to Charlie? Could that be what's inspired her goals with the hotel? And I didn't realize this until now, but when Charlie is singing in the finale song about how she could have done better, I had always thought that she was referring to Serpentius since she and Kiki were mourning over his banner a few seconds before. But when looking back at it now, she's most likely referring to her mom. I am Slowboy, but I am Good Boy. And here's the big question. Is it possible that whatever she passed onto Charlie may have been misread or misinterpreted in one way or another?
Is he not to destroy the Sith and bring balance to the Force?
So the prophecy says.
A prophecy that misread could have been.
I ask because Charlie's goals seem to be quite noble, and her mom's goal to essentially chill up in heaven, if that is indeed what we can guesstimate based on what we're shown at the end of Season 1, comes across as nothing more than self-serving. As of right now, we also don't know why she and Lou split up, but I believe that during all those years of them being together, that she may have been adding on to, or even causing, Lucifer's depressive state and damaging the structural integrity of her family. You could use this lyric from More Than Anything as an example.
We can start again, not be pulled apart again.
Or you can use the musical number's Flashback, where there are hints of the Hell Queen being somewhat abusive towards her family. Well, sort of. It's more allegedly, because I'm going off what we're shown in this moment. This scene has always grabbed my attention, since it gives us a good glimpse at how the relationship between Charlie and her dad may have been damaged. We see little Charlie sneaking into her dad's workshop, almost as though she's not meant to be there, with Lucifer echoing this sentiment before he puts her on his lap. And I gotta say, this is one of my favorite moments in the entire show, and not just because it's very wholesome, but because we don't get any dialogue, which lets us as the audience fill in the blanks on what he could be telling her. Well, that and little Charlie is just too damn adorable. I mean, just look at her, she is so cute! Then Mama comes in and proceeds to do a pretty passive-aggressive shoulder shrug before carrying Charlie off, with both her and her dad having the same saddened expression. This adds to the idea that Lil may have been verbally abusive based on this handoff, as well as the blankness we see in her face. Despite everyone knowing what she looks like based on official art and portrait scenes that go back as far as the pilot. Now, I don't know about the rest of you, but I've always seen the blank face as hinting at a possible abusive or aggressive nature to the Hell Queen, with Charlie subconsciously blocking out her mother's face so the happier bits of this memory aren't overshadowed by anything negative. And then, the door that had been once open is slowly closed shut. Symbolism at its finest. However, if she was perhaps aggressive to her loved ones, it would be best to know the reason as to why, and that reason may end up going back to Adam. If Lucifer did indeed do something to drive the first couple apart, since they were made for each other in the most literal sense, it's possible that she may love him in a way, but also resents him for causing her to lose her spot in paradise, and now is hated and feared by those on earth and in heaven. So when she found out how to cut a deal in heaven, she took it. There's also the possibility that since Adam and Lil were made for each other, that they would end up back together in one form or another at the end of the day, and if that be the case, perhaps she could feel the weight of her betrayal bearing down on her over time. I mean, she is in heaven as far as we can tell, and Adam is dressed more like a devil than the actual devil is. Which gives me the hilarious image of Adam confronting his wife in his getup and going, "Is this what you want? I can be a bad boy too!" Oh god, I can see it. It's vivid. And this also means that Adam and his first wife still reflect each other in appearance in both the pilot and the show proper. If so, it would explain why her presence in heaven may have gone unquestioned if someone with Adam's reputation had her back. And why Lut so nonchalantly laid his halo at her feet and demanded that she go down to hell and deal with Charlie. To which Lil gives a not-so-courteous glare. Although, since we don't have much to go on currently, we'll just need to wait and see if Mrs. Morningstar ends up being a heroic figure, an antagonistic figure, or just a villain. Honest to God, I hope she becomes an antagonistic or villain-like figure, so we can finally get a rendition of Hell's Greatest Mom in real time. The only thing more enjoyable than that would be a night living it up at Club Kaiju. I shouldn't need to explain why. We also shouldn't rule out her being the one pulling Alistair's leash, and if so, I don't think she would be very trustworthy based on her choice of thralls. Anyways, these are just some ideas I've had bouncing around in my head since I started watching Hazbin Hotel. I am very much looking forward to future episodes, and I'm curious to see how the Hell Queen will be handled. But I have the feeling that regardless of what happens, Viv will have us hooked to our screens quite aggressively. I also hope that you chiming in enjoyed this video, and if you did, please consider smashing the like button and share your thoughts in the comments. And if you happen to come across any of my other videos, whether they be essays, shorts, or otherwise, please feel free to add to whatever theories or hypotheses presented. I do enjoy interacting with my viewers and reading your comments. And based on my analytics, I've noticed that many of you viewing my content have not yet subscribed. Now, I'm not going to be one to tell you what to do, but if you did like what you've seen so far and would like to see more videos like it, do subscribe and ring that bell, as I am working on diversifying my content a bit more. And if that doesn't work, will you subscribe for a squeak? With that being said, Godspeed, and I hope to see each of you in the next installment.